Hey, welcome to the channel. It's Tuesday. It's about 12:30 in the afternoon, and thought I'd come up and get a little bit of exercise and do a little bit of walking up here. You know, I've walked all inside the moat, and I think I've hit just about every road that you can imagine, and some of them maybe 2 or 3 times. But today I thought what I'd do is one thing I haven't done is I haven't walked around the whole outside perimeter of the moat. And I thought I'd do that over the next few videos and just walk around the outside of the moat and show you some of the interesting things and point out some stuff, you know, along the way. And just see what happens. A lot of different things are going on right now. They're talking about lifting the emergency decree that's been put in place and extending the entry to 45 days. In other words, when you come in the country, you get 45 days instead of 30. Now, whether that's going to increase tourism or not, I don't know, and we'll just have to wait and see. But everything's nice. It's about 33 Celsius today, and the air's nice and clear. We've had a lot of rain in the afternoons and in the evenings, but during the day it's been pretty cool. And today I'm going to tell you a story. You know, the other day I did a story about catfishing, and during the video I made mention that I had catfished somebody myself, and I had, and somebody left a comment that, you know, they wanted to hear about it. So today you're going to hear about it, and it's one of the cases that stuck with me throughout my career. In times throughout my career, after this case, when I questioned sometimes why I became a police officer and maybe not a pilot or something else, you know, that I could have been, I went back to this case, and it always made me feel like, you know, I did the right thing. I made the right choices, career choice, and I also believe that this case, you know, it was my purpose. You know, it was something that I did, and I could look back at this case and without a shadow of a doubt understand that I changed somebody's life, and there was a meaning for the type of work that I was doing. Now, right over there is Mad Dogs. It's been here since I've been here. It didn't shut down during COVID. And it's hanging in there real good. I've ate in there a few times. The food's pretty good. And the THC rooftop bar, never been in there. It used to be a burger joint in there a long time ago. But to get on with the story, back in 1996, I was captain of criminal investigations. I had like 9 or 10 people working for me, and they pretty much handled the cases, and I worked pretty much whatever I wanted to. And during that time, we were changing over to a computer system in the offices, and they sent me home with a computer. And I remember my chief, as I was walking out the door with the computer underneath my arm, he handed me a American Online disc. Because I didn't know what the internet was back then. You know, it was just first started out. And he said, "Try that." He said, "You'll like it." And at that point in time, I was kind of stuck to my ways and things. I wasn't really interested in computers or anything like that, but I did it, and I went home and I played with it for a while. I liked it. I enjoyed it. There's a Suki shake. But I got on American Online, and it wasn't long before I found out that American Online was loaded with a bunch of pedophiles. And, you know, the old story that you remember, the don't take candy from a stranger, you know, that kind of went out the window. But I found on American Online that there were all kinds of different people there from all over the place, and I started trying to think about ways that I could make cases, try to lure these people out. And I did a few cases on it, and I was able to sucker people out. you know, out into the open to think that they were coming to have sex with a kid. And matter of fact, in the video that I'm going to show you, the particular guy that is in the video, he was, it's funny. I lured him out, and turns out you'll see another guy in the picture. You'll see his back, and as he's reholstering his weapon. That was my partner Barry. The guy that we're arresting right there was the saxophone player in Barry's church, and I had lured him out to have sex with a 15-year-old boy, and that's a story for another, you know, another day, because this is a different one. But on this particular case, I had got away from American Online as a, you know, as a full source of finding people, and I had got onto the internet, and I was using a program called IRC Chat. It's Internet Relay Chat, and it's basically a system built up of a bunch of servers all over the world, and you can communicate with just about anybody. Hello. And you, Swati Kap, Spidey Mai? Do very good job cleaning. Very good. But there was a program that was attached to IRC that you could download. It was called MIRC. And it gave you a whole bunch of options. You could send pictures and files, and you could document what you're doing. It gave you the IP address that you were talking to. And it would log everything that you said. And when you dialed onto MIRC, you would get sometimes 3,000 and 4,000 different rooms with different topics. It was really, really bizarre. But anyway, on this particular day, like I said, I had not really used MIRC for you know, catfishing people. But this particular day, I thought, well, I'll give it a try. So I didn't actually know what I was going to do, and I wanted to make up a name that was kind of generic, that could be either a kid or a woman or whatever. And at the time, I was a big Motley Crue fan. I said, well, I'll use Nikki Sixx's name. You know, I spell it the same way, but I figured I better not do Nikki Sixx because they might actually think it's him. So I picked Nikki 5, Nikki 5, and I went out with it. And I was searching around the different groups and stuff, and I saw a group that said family sex. And I'm thinking, what in the name of God is this? And I clicked on it. And you know, the minute you click on it, it puts your name into the room where people can see that you're in on it, and you don't really have a profile that anybody can look up. So you know, you have no idea who it is. On this particular program, you didn't really have a profile. You could put some stuff in there that you could type out to people, but for the most part, you just had a name. But anyway, I hit the room, and I'm sitting there, and I'm kind of looking at it. And next thing you know, I get a message from this guy. And he says, who in your family do you do? And I'm thinking, huh? And I was kind of, I didn't know what to say. You know, I mean, it kind of floored me. And yeah, that place, I used to eat in there a lot. It's shut down. It's been shut down a good long while now. I can't remember the name of it. It was kind of like a German place. But anyway, hello. My response to him was, I don't do anybody. I'm just curious. And this is no lie. Within 2 seconds, I get a message back from him saying he molests his 13-year-old daughter. He has sex with his 13-year-old daughter. And I'm thinking, huh? You know, this is crazy. And I'm kind of caught off guard because I really wasn't expecting this. But anyway, I started asking him about it. He says, yeah, he's been she's 15 now, but he had been having full-blown sex with her since she was 13 years old. And I tried to get him to send me a picture of her, but he wouldn't do it. And you know, that's one of the things that we do. Is the first thing you try to do is you try to get him to send you child pornography, because then you've got him. He wouldn't send me a picture of her, but he sent me a picture of about 3 others that were all considered child pornography. And we continued the conversation for probably about 30 or 40 minutes. And I basically told him, you know, the next thing that he was asking me, because at those times, you know, video cameras weren't, or, you know, internet cameras weren't that, I don't think anybody had one. I didn't have one. I didn't even have a scanner. But he was asking me what I looked like. So all I can think of is Julia Roberts. So I got Julia Roberts in my mind, and I'm describing myself to him. And you know, he's just, oh, you sound so hot, and you know, you sound sexy and all this stuff. And I told him I had a 15-year-old daughter, and I was a single mother, struggling to make ends meet. My husband had left me, you know, with a kid, and just having a hard time, and the kid was giving me a hard time, and you know, she had a boyfriend, and I think I told him that I caught him having sex in the house or something like that. And I mean, this guy was just eating this stuff up. And I asked him what he looked like, and the description he gave me was, it sounded like about like Brad Pitt, you know. So I'm dealing with a handsome man here. Now, this is what he really looked like over there. But anyway, we continued talking. Probably about 30 or 40 minutes, and I'm logging all this, and he starts telling me the things he's done to this kid, and I'm listening to it, and I'm not believing it. I just, there is no human, there are things that he was doing that I wouldn't even repeat, let alone think of how somebody could do this to a kid. They're out in droves again today. And for a minute there, I thought maybe I was being catfished, you know, by another law enforcement agency. But, you know, the golden rule is you don't send child pornography over the internet, period. Whether you're a cop or whoever you are, you just don't do it. So I was relatively certain that I wasn't having that problem here. And we ended on the conversation, you know, and he pretty much linked up with me, and you know, so whenever I came online, I knew he was there, and he knew I was there. And also in the conversation, I figured out that he lived in Raleigh, North Carolina. He told me all this stuff. Very, very, very open and upfront. So I went back to the office the next day. We finished the conversation, and that was it. And I went back to the office the next day, and the first thing I did, I called our district attorney up and had him come over to the office and look at the chat logs and, you know, what I'd been sent and what he had told me. And, you know, it wasn't our jurisdiction, but I wasn't letting go of this guy for nothing. So the next night, we talk again, and I'm thinking, I've got to do something to entice this guy. I've got to get him out from behind the computer. I've got to get I've got to get to him somehow, you know. If what he's saying is true, which I kind of doubted, because I mean it was really bizarre. I mean I've seen a lot of stuff in my time, and nothing that I've seen has topped what this guy was doing. And you know, I knew I had to stop him somehow, or either determine you know, he was full of crap, and either way something had to be done. So the next night I get online, sure enough he messaged me back, and he's asking me about my daughter. And he said he wants to introduce his daughter to another girl to have sex together. And I'm thinking, So I looked at it, you know, I thought about it for a second. I said, well, that's the perfect way to hook him out. And so I told him, I agree, you know, hey, that sounds like fun, you know. I've always been curious about that, and you know, we could do something. So he's going on and on and on. He's got this, you know, this big plan. He was divorced from his wife that he had the kid with. The kid was actually up in Suffolk County, New York, and he was in North Carolina. And when he was doing all this stuff was when he had her for 2 weeks. And his 2 weeks were coming up. They were probably about a month away. And what he'd do is he'd drive up to New York and pick her up and bring her back to his place in North Carolina. But he hadn't done anything in North Carolina with her from as best we could figure out. But he had from what he was saying, everything that he had done in Suffolk County. So we've got this plan devised, and all the time he's hounding me to get a picture. He wants to see a picture of me, but he won't send me one of him. You know, I still have to think that he's Brad Pitt. So I kept telling him, you know, I said, you know, I've got to go to work, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. You know, there's just no way I can get a digital picture right now. And in the meantime, I contact because it was obvious I wasn't going to get him to drive across state lines. It just didn't seem like it was something that I could get to do. If I wanted to do anything, I would have had to have gone to him. So I contacted the Raleigh Detective Division over in Raleigh, North Carolina, and you know, told them what I had, and I FedExed the computer discs I had to them that had the pictures and also the records of the chats that I'd had with this guy. And about 3 days later, I get a call from the FBI in Raleigh, North Carolina, a guy by the name of Andy Tamir. And he's real interested in the case. They had already subpoenaed the IP address, and the guy was talking to me out of a computer repair shop that he owned. And that's where they had typed the IP address to. And meantime, you know, every night he's talking to me, telling me more stuff he's done to this kid. It was just absolutely mind-boggling. And I mean, I've never imagined that a human being could do that to their own child. But and I'm thinking also that, you know, a lot of this is probably just BS, because he wants to hook up with you know, Cindy Crawford or whoever, you know, or what he thinks is. He would have been in for a hell of a surprise, no doubt. Oh, amigos, I've had Mexican food there. It's pretty good. And there's a skin doctor right there. Good skin doctor. But, so anyway, Andy had a lot of work to do on his end. And he kept telling me, he said, put him off, you know, keep talking to him, keep him on the string, and I'll get back to you. So about, probably another week and a half went by, and like I said, I'm talking to this guy about every night or two for, you know, probably 15, 20 minutes, maybe even longer than that. So obvious to me that he was going to his shop in the day. Wow, that guy's getting a swim. And I was also catching him online at work too, so he was there. I was getting him during the day too. But he keeps wanting a picture. And you know, I guess I could have sent him a picture of anybody, but I didn't do it, and really didn't know to do it. At that time, I was still a novice. But anyway, Andy calls me. He said, when's the best time to catch him online? And I said, you know, lately it's been during the day. And he said, okay. He said, the FBI was getting a search warrant ready. And Andy told me, he said, I'll call you and tell you a time frame that we need to do it. I said, okay, because what they wanted to do is they wanted to catch him while he was on the computer. So couple days later, Andy calls me, says, do you think you can get him on Wednesday? I said, I have no doubt I can. I said, I've just got to tell him I've got a picture. And I guarantee he'll be online. He's just dying to see what his imaginary girlfriend looks like and her daughter. So I send him a message and I said, can you be online on Wednesday at 1 o'clock? I said, I've got a picture, but I can't get it to you till then because I have to go to the hospital to see my mother, and there's a place next door that'll take a digital picture, and I'll pick it up and then I'll come back home and send it to you. And sure enough, he agrees to it. So, the plan's in place. So Wednesday comes along, and I've got Andy on the phone, and they're all set up outside of his place. And they could see him inside. And he said, "Okay, go ahead and get him online. Let me know when you're talking to him." So I sent a hi message out. How are you? And about 30 seconds later, I get a hi back, and he says, "Where's my picture? Where's my picture?" I said, "Wait, just a minute. I'm getting ready to send it right now." And I get on the phone to Andy. I says, "He's on it right now." He says, "Okay." And I'm sitting there watching my computer and I'm typing messages. I said, "I'm getting ready to send it to you." Next thing you know, his screen goes dead. And they hit him. They hit him in his house. They caught him on the computer. And for some reason, and I don't really know, I guess it's different, different reasons. They like to pull the plug as soon as they hit the door. They'll even go far as shutting the power off. And that's, to lose stuff. I always like to, when I was trying to catch somebody on the computer, I always like to keep the computer open and, get them away from the keyboard as fast as possible. And then you've got an open computer there that you don't have any worries about passwords or encryption or anything like that. You're right in there and you're open. But they wanted to pull the plug, and sure enough, he went dead. And they had him, and they arrested him, and they charged him with federally on possession of child pornography there in North Carolina. Well, then they set out to find the daughter, because they wanted to find out if what he was telling me, if there was any truth to it. Now, right around here is Sampech Kitchen, great place to eat, and then you got a donut shop right next door where you can get donuts. Right there, Sampech Kitchen, great Thai food. So the agents out of Raleigh jump on an airplane and go up to Suffolk County, New York, and they locate the girl, and they interview her. And it turns out everything that he told me that he had done, and a few other things that he hadn't told me about, were true. He had gone as far as making contact with another guy in Suffolk County that had a bulletin board service, and he had brought her to him. They had both molested her and taken pictures of her, and she told him about that, and she basically confirmed everything and then some that he had told me over the computer. And when I heard this, I was shocked. I had no clue that anybody could do such a horrific thing to not only a child, but their own child. I should have known better. I've been fooled before, but this was really, kind of took the cake. So he's still in jail in North Carolina, and they flew me over to North Carolina, and I met with the federal prosecutor, and I basically showed her how MIRC worked, and explained the whole synopsis of the case, and how I got involved in it and what he sent me, and confirmed that those were the pictures that he sent me. So they prosecuted him in North Carolina federally, and he got, I think he got, if I'm not mistaken, he got something like 8 years. And what they didn't have for federal prosecution was they didn't have him transporting her across state lines, as best that I can figure, for them to prosecute him on something like that. But Suffolk County gets hold of him. They get the case, and they interview the girl and talk to the mother. And also, while this guy is online with me, he tells me that he had raped his sister when she was 9 years old. That was true. And matter of fact, the sister called me after all this broke and talked to me about it. And I was getting bombarded by calls. The story actually made the New York Times and the USA Today, and I was getting calls from all over the country from different agencies and news media. Okay, well, battery went out on me, but I was getting calls from everywhere. How you doing? And the news media from North Carolina flew over to interview me, and I'll show you that video right now.
Online, he's a 15-year-old girl.
He still wants to know what I'm wearing.
In real life, he's a computer crimes investigator hunting down sexual predators.
We're just interested in people who are after children.
To get to children, criminals are using worldwide computer networks like the internet, which nobody polices.
You're basically exposing your child to the whole world. Okay, and I'm on this end. I'm in your house. I'm talking to your child.
Bill Burt is a sheriff's detective from Tennessee, a self-taught computer ace who's trained FBI agents in North Carolina how to catch these criminals online.
See preteen pictures, sex pictures. It gets worse than that.
A quick search of internet news groups and chat rooms show they're infested with pornography, perverts, and pedophilia.
Little boy sex.
Many people...
See, that's 2 children.
It's pretty disturbing.
Yeah, disgusting more than anything else.
Not only disgusting, but illegal. Tracking down the sender, however, isn't always easy.
If I could find out this person's actual email address, then I would go through their provider and subpoena the records from their provider to find out who that name is actually registered to.
To see who else is preying on children, we went online undercover using a computer profile of a fictitious teenager, 15-year-old Carol from Charlotte, and chose a chat room.
I've just jumped into a room here. It says barely legal female.
The bait's in place. Immediately, somebody bites. "Will you come sit on Daddy's lap now?" they ask. "Sure," Bert answers. Seconds later, another message.
See, now here's a classic example. Are you alone at the computer now, or are you with friends? God almighty.
So you're just getting bombarded.
Yeah, I'm getting killed.
Within 15 minutes, strangers send us dozens of sexual requests, pornographic pictures, even a phone number.
The ones that are for real are so eager on the other end to find what they're looking for sexually.
Like this man, Bert says. The detective lured the 43-year-old suspect online and arranged to meet him in person.
It was to have sex with a 15-year-old kid.
When the suspect saw there was no kid, but 2 cops instead, he tried to make a run for it. Bert nabbed him and several computer disks, allegedly loaded with child pornography.
I could see that what I did and the work that we did on the computer probably kept some child from being molested. It may keep somebody else from getting on the computer and trying to get into somebody's home to get to their children. But anyway, I kind of felt like a rock star. You know, everybody's calling me, everybody's wanting to, you know, come talk to me. And things, you know, I felt good about myself because based on the fact that everything he told me was true, I knew that I had saved a kid. And it was just a good for healing. And they flew me up to New York as well to meet with the prosecutor up there. because he was actually facing more time in New York than he would on a federal system. And the prosecutor up there, you know, these child abuse prosecutors are extremely aggressive, and they're very good. And the reason why they're so aggressive is because none of these defendants want to take a case like this to trial. They will never, never, never come out on top. And in my whole 23 years, I never heard or knew of a child sex abuse case that ever went to trial. It just, the lawyers don't want to take them there because they know the jury will crucify them. And that was the case with this guy. He ended up, I believe, getting a 15-year sentence in Suffolk County, and some of it had to be added to his federal time. The best I can figure, this happened in '96, and I think he got out in 2014 or 15. He got out on parole. And I'm going to show you a list of his charges and stuff. But, you know, this was a case that caught my heart. And if I had ever needed a reason to be a cop, that was the reason, saving that girl. And about a month after I got back from New York, the prosecutor up in New York sent my boss a really, really nice letter, you know, and thanking me for doing the case. And the little girl sent me a card, and it was kind of funny. She was sitting in a chair wearing an FBI cap, and so it was really interesting. But that's, you know, that was the last I ever heard of it. Unfortunately, the prosecutor in Suffolk County, she retired, and then 2 weeks later she died from an aneurysm. Pitiful. The U.S. attorney in South Carolina, she's since retired. But I got to checking around on the internet today because I wanted to find some pictures of this guy. And during the course of my digging around and being a snoop like I am, I was able to find the girl's Facebook page. And thankfully, she's doing very well. She married. She has a successful business, and you know, when I saw that today, and I actually found it this morning, and I was just floored. I said, that's why we take these jobs, and you know, we put our heart and souls into them, and especially, you know, when a kid's involved in it, I always tried to go the extra mile, and sometimes 2 miles. It didn't really matter. But I went, you know, from 96 to I think it was probably 2006, I continued to make those cases, and most of them were local people that I'd snake up and bring them into the city and then go ahead and arrest them, all on the pretense of having sex with a kid. And the funny thing is they would never see my face until I got out of the car and snatched them up. And then I got to see their face, and the expressions and the things that happened were just, you know, it just made it worthwhile to do it. Well, we are on the northwest corner of the moat now. We started midway on the east side. So I think I'm going to go ahead and finish this video up. There's Ryder's Corner. For any of you people who want good smoked spare ribs, that's the place to go. You don't need to look around. He's got the best, and they're not fall off the bone. They're gnaw off the bone, and that's how I like them. But anyway, I've still got to, you know, I just walked this. I've got to walk all the way back to the car now, which I can use the exercise. I've already had lunch at Gecko, and I can use a little, I can use a little bit of exercise. I don't know what happened there. But anyway, I appreciate y'all stopping in. I appreciate y'all subscribing to the channel and leaving comments, and we'll see you on the next one.